Ha! I got you with that title, didn't I? Yes, I did. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ross Hendry's Monday Madness, episode 31. And today is a very interesting topic. I bet you it's a topic you never expected me to say. I have a whole episode about this. So basically, give us a good rating. If you're on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Share it, your friends and everything. Let people know if you're into Marvel, if you're into gaming and everything, then this is for yous. I would like to start off with basically, I've been watching, just a quick I've been watching The Boys on Amazon Prime. Season 3's dropped, the first 3 episodes have dropped. I won't spoil anything for you, but it's really good. And it's got me thinking, and it's so good. It's not just like good. It's actually, I would say, the best superhero show on just now, as in better than all the Disney Plus stuff combined. I think it's phenomenal. There's just more effort put into it. And I was saying the same thing last week about Stranger Things season 4, and there was more effort put into it. More. On the directing side of it and everything, there's just more creativity put behind sort of Stranger Things and The Boys over the Marvel stuff and even the Star Wars stuff. I was comparing Obi-Wan to Stranger Things last week, and I was like, oh yeah, Obi-Wan's okay, but Stranger Things is really, really good. And now that Stranger Things is out the way, Obi-Wan now has to deal with The Boys season 3, which is out releasing every week, an episode every week, keeping up with it. So it's got me thinking, I think Disney must be looking at this, going, well, guys, our show, we've got, I think Disney are, what I would say is, I'd like to just sort of, it goes into the Star Wars stuff as well, but I'm not really a Star Wars expert, so there's stuff on that side that I'm seeing people are talking about that they're not happy with the Obi-Wan show. It's missing things. It's not very creative. There's stupid decisions. The writing is just not very good at all, and they're missing things. I can't really, I get what they're saying about that, but I'm going to focus on the Marvel stuff just now because I think it comes under the same issue just now. And after essentially Doctor Strange, I will be spoiling Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, a little moment that happened in that made me go, there's something wrong here with the MCU just now, to the point where, it's all right, but it's nowhere near as good as it was, and I think that they're missing, what I would say is that I think Marvel, I don't even think it's Marvel, I think it's Disney. I think Disney are aiming towards the general public, the general public that kind of like the films more than the actual fans of the original comics and fans of Marvel before the movies and everything. I think they're not really aiming towards them, and I don't even think Marvel fans are writing these films. They'll say they will, but after watching kind of Doctor Strange and watching the shows and seeing where things are going, I'm just like, I think that they're missing the point, and I think there's a lot of issues going on here with the Marvel stuff. Now, as I am like a diehard Marvel fan ever since I was tiny, I'm noticing these things, and I think there was a moment in Doctor Strange that just made me go, I think this is such a strange decision, and it was for shock value, and I get that, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, do you know what would have been better than shock value? You could have got that, but in another, you could. I'll explain it. Right, spoilers for Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. The Illuminati Scene. This is just for me. This just screamed out that there's just something not right. I think, and they're not aiming for the fans of the comics. They're aiming for the general audience, trying to get them because there's more of them than diehard Marvel fans. And it's not Marvel fans writing the film. I think it's Disney sort of producers sort of ticking the boxes. They're writers, but they're not comic book fans, or Marvel fans specifically. So what I would say is the Illuminati Scene. So you had Mr. Fantastic, you had Black Bolt, right? These are two absolute iconic Marvel characters, right? Black Bolt is like one of the, the most powerful, characters in the comics, and everybody, he's just cool. He's just a cool character. He's been around for like 60 years. He was in, his first appearance was in the first Fantastic Four issue, right? He's been around, the two of them appeared at the same time. And the other two was Captain Carter and a variant of Captain Marvel. Now, I think that, and I can see, just to me, I went, that the MCU isn't necessarily Marvel, the people running it. I don't buy it. Because they all die, right? And I don't have a problem with that. I think that's good. It's how they die. That I was like, I think that, obviously, for shock value, essentially Scarlet Witch rocks up to the Illuminati and takes them all out and beats them all. But the thing is that Black Bolt and Mr. Fantastic get wiped out instantly with ease, and Captain Marvel and Captain Carter go down fighting, and they get a big fight scene. They still die, they still get beat, but they go down in a blaze of glory. Whereas the other two, they get mollywopped in 5 seconds, humiliated, like embarrassingly just taken out quick. And I had a little issue with that, as a fan of sort of these characters for so long. I just think Marvel are missing the point, because Captain Marvel and Captain Carter, they're MCU. They've been pushed by the MCU, but they're not really. Those two characters are not iconic comic book Marvel characters for the past 60 years, whereas Mr. Fantastic and Black Bolt are two of the most iconic Marvel characters that have never been properly seen. Mr. Fantastic, yes, but Black Bolt's one that we've never seen properly done in a film. And I thought, when he turned up, I was like, oh, it's Black Bolt. It's Black Bolt. He's like, and then he has a great moment with Doctor Strange where he shows you how powerful he is. And then Scarlet Witch removes his mouth and kills him. And for a start, I would like to argue against that death. If I was at school with these writers in the playground when we were like 10, if we were the same age, and they brought that up to me, I would say I would be able to beat them in a debate. That's what I did back in the day, right? If it was a Marvel thing, I would always win, because I know what happens. And I'd argue that if Black Bolt's voice could vaporize entire moons, in fact, let's not even go the comic book rate. Let's say, okay, Black Bolt's voice annihilated a variant of Doctor Strange with a whisper. Just one, took him out, obliterated him. And you're telling me that it can't break through some layers of skin taped over his mouth, and not only that, but it would be able to bounce off that and then ricochet through his skull. You're telling me his voice couldn't break through his skin, some layers of skin, but could get through his skull. So I'd argue that even if Wanda did that, I still think it would still be painful for him, but the voice would still just bust through like where the mouth would be and just take him out, and it would still have the same effect in my mind. But never mind, that's an issue for another day. But obviously Mr. Fantastic's pretty useless in that situation, but at the same time, he's the leader of the Fantastic Four. And I think that taking him out so quickly without giving them much screen time, you had Black Bolt in that film, and they take him out in 5 seconds. And I'm like, so the two characters that aren't necessarily comic book classic legendary characters that are just being sort of forced into the MCU, that were MCU creations, really. You know, Captain Carter. There was like one comic in it, but she wasn't Captain. Like, it was very recent. There's not been much. And then this Captain Marvel variant is just a new version of Captain Marvel, everyone's favourite superhero. And I just think that, so the two characters that weren't necessarily famous Marvel legendary characters got taken out in like 3 seconds. Went down in a big fight and got to have a big fight scene, but the two iconic ones that the comic book fans love didn't get to do anything. That's to me, that's like, why not? You could have killed them all. But I would love to see Black Bolt, if she was going to beat Black Bolt, it's like, I want to see it go down in style. And even then, it's like, having Scarlet Witch kill off Black Bolt, to me, is like, Black Bolt is more legendary. He's been around since the dawn of Marvel Comics, you know what I mean? He's one of the most iconic. He's always been mega powerful. Whereas Scarlet Witch for a long time wasn't necessarily reality warping super powerful for like the first 40 years of her existence. She literally stood in the back in the panels and did this, like that. That's all she did. And then the House of M came along and they went, oh, let's do Flashpoint, but we'll do it with Scarlet Witch and we'll power her up. Oh yeah, that's a good idea, let's do that. That's essentially what happened, in my mind. But anyway, I think, sort of having the MCU characters, the 3 MCU characters that Marvel are pushing, the two, Captain Marvel and Scarlet Witch, these two that they're pushing to be like everybody's favourite, but the actual comic book characters from the source material from the 60 years of people growing up loving these characters and all the storylines, get the first time we're seeing Black Bolt in live action, one of the favourite, most famous Marvel comic characters, one of the coolest things. And he's supposed to, even then, Black Bolt's supposed to have insane control over speaking. He's supposed to have, like he can go without, the whole thing is that he never speaks. He never speaks. That's the whole thing. He never, ever, ever does it in the comics. Even there was a game, Ultimate Alliance, the first Ultimate Alliance game in the PS2, Deadpool. If you're Deadpool, right, and you go up to him, he'll try get Black Bolt to speak. And he's like winding him up with jokes and sort of winding him up, and he does nothing. He doesn't even break, So having him sort of struggle to hold his voice back, to me, is like, that's not, he's supposed to be like, it's supposed to, he never speaks. He never speaks. He's always got that arsenal in the tank, you know what I mean? He's always got that, that he never uses his power. He never uses it. But there's this presence about him that he could, how easy it would be for him to just annihilate everything in his path if he wanted to. In fact, he just sits there in the the Inhumans. He's like the king of the Inhumans, and he just sits in a big throne, and they all speak to him. They pass judgment on him, and he never, ever speaks. And when he does, it's very rare. And when he does, it's moons are getting like city. He can level a city with like one word. And I just think there's this presence about him that he's always had in the comics that he could just, even in the film, it's like when he spoke, it was controlled and he was able to do it. But it's like one of these things where it's like if he spoke, it would destroy more than that. Everything around him would be smashed to bits. It's even the World War Hulk comic, when Hulk beats him at the start, and he's the first one that goes down. But before that, I'm sure it's Spider-Man that says at one point, Black Bolt could usually easily take out the Hulk. There's like a line there that I think it's the second issue, the first, I can't remember when, but there's a line, I think Spider-Man says it, that he could handle the Hulk easily before. That's how powerful he is. It's like, and it's a shock when the Hulk forms it and sort of beats him. But I always remember that line from the comic, and just to see him sort of wasted like that and not getting, they sort of missed that whole point of him. He was just one of the members of the Illuminati. He was just one of the 4, and he got taken out first, just easily. But they missed that presence about him that, they wasted it. He spoke so quickly when he turned up. Within 3 minutes, he spoke and took out Doctor Strange. It's like, nah, you should have waited. You could have had Black Bolt the entire film, and then as a last-minute thing to stop Wanda, You know what I mean? Like, he's finally... That would have been ace. That would have been amazing. Because even then, like, Doctor Strange doesn't even get to beat Scarlet Witch at the end. She beats herself, basically. He doesn't even get the big hero moment. And it's like, what's going on? What's going on? Why aren't the superheroes getting to save the day anymore? I don't understand. Yeah, and I just thought, yeah, that's kind of bland, isn't it? And even, you know, so that annoyed me about it. I didn't like what they did with Black Bolt. And then Mr. Fantastic getting turned into spaghetti. Yeah, he's not very powerful at all. But, you know, he's still one of the most, like, he's the leader of the Fantastic Four. Like, there's nobody really more iconic. There's very little characters more iconic than him. You've finally seen Mr. Fantastic in the MCU. And then they turn him into spaghetti. And I'm like, what? What's going on? So those two go down instantly, and the two, Captain Marvel and Captain Carter, they go down in a big fight, and it goes on for like 2 minutes, and it's like, oh, do you know what would have been cooler than that? Black Bolt flying about, or whatever. That would be great, but no, we can't have that, can we? No, so sad times. But, and I think it's not just the films, I think the shows as well. I think they're missing the whole superhero part of it. I think they're ticking boxes, Disney. I think they're saying, okay, this must happen for this demographic, this must happen for this target audience, instead of just keeping it simple and sort of feeding to the sort of, like Moon Knight, for example. Let's go Moon Knight. Moon Knight barely saved the day at the end. You know, if it wasn't for Layla coming in at the end, he would have lost. And it's like, he went through all that trouble, that self-discovery, through those episodes of, like, being in the afterlife, discovering who he truly is, you know, becoming stronger up here. And then when it came down to the final battle, he had to get rescued, like, twice by another superhero that was just brought in like that was just nowhere near as good as Moon Knight. But they tried. But I just think that's just a... To me, it's like, I would have loved to have just seen Moon Knight take him on, beat him by himself. It's just more rewarding. It's just the simple thing to do. And I think that they're taking on the complex things, like the mental health and split personality, and they focused all in on that. But my thing is, I don't think the writers that Disney have for these shows are necessarily that good. And I don't think that they necessarily have the brains to tackle something as big as that. Like, compare it to the Boys. That tackles mental health as well, and it's much more subtle, and it's way better the way they do it. It's much better the way it's done and executed. And I think Moon Knight became a bit too silly and stupid when it could have just been small scale. Right, Moon Knight fights monster every week and beats it, and then they carry on the quest. You could fit that storyline in, but you could have done it in a much more rewarding way. And I think that it's coming off in a lot of these shows, and the biggest example is the Hulk. I've seen what happens. They've completely taken one of the most iconic Marvel characters in history, and they've just turned him into a puppy dog. That's what they've done. They've neutered the Hulk, and that is obviously just to allow the other heroes to shine. Because you've got Falcon, and you've got like all these characters and Hawkeye that have no powers, and they're so and then you have the Incredible Hulk who could lift up in buildings with one arm, and he's not getting to take it out big monsters in the end game. He never got anything. Everyone else was focused on, there was so much going on, but when your favourite character doesn't do anything in that final battle, you notice, or the entire film, and he never came out, the Hulk, they made him into a nice Hulk. And it's like, no, we want the big savage one back. So they did it with him. They've took out Black Bolt as well. That's another one. They've took out Mr. Fantastic, get annihilated. So that's three. That's three mega iconic comic book characters from the comic days that fans love, that the films are just not... They're just neutering, basically, and just going, nah, they're not that good compared to our Wanda. See guys, you get me? Nah, Thanos one-shotted Wanda in the Infinity Gauntlet comic. It was brilliant. Nah, get out. Shocking. Now, I'm not saying the whole MCU is bad. No. Listen here. Listen, there's only one film out of... There's one movie out of all of Phase 4, right, that's actually just stuck to that just went old school and just didn't try to do anything too crazy and just kept it fun and good fun, and everybody loved it, and it was the biggest one by a mile at the box office. It was the best film, and it was Spider-Man No Way Home. Right? That is the one movie out of everything that Marvel's done, including the shows, everything that I watched came out of and went, that was brilliant. Finally. There was nothing, like, it wasn't trying to, like, do anything. It wasn't trying to force feed politics. It wasn't trying to do anything like that. It was just a simple, fun movie. There was no character that came out in the final battle and helped Spider-Man beat the Green Goblin. He beat the Green Goblin at the end. He beat him in a straight hand-to-hand fight, and it was the best thing ever, and I loved it, right? And obviously you had the other two Spider-Men that came in to help him out and save the day, but in the end of the day, it was Tom Holland that came in and beat Green Goblin. You're a main villain, you're a hero. The villain beats the hero at first, the hero comes back and smashes him up at the end, and that's all. That's great. That's all we want. And I think that was allowing... That movie didn't try to bring in another character, like a Layla character, or, you know, someone that comes in from the outside and takes the glory moment from the main hero, and it's just kind of, you know, we wanted... they gave it to Spider-Man. Spider-Man did it. They didn't power up MJ and gave her powers and she came in and saved him at the last minute. No, he did it. It was him 1v1 on the Goblin, and he took him out. And look what happened. That whole film was they just made a good Spider-Man film, and look what happened. Everybody loved it. And the thing is, I think Sony had more of a hand in that film than Disney did, which is why I think it stands out. I don't think Disney had any real say in it. It was Sony, and that's why I think there was a difference. There was a simplicity to it, even though it was multiverse and everything. And that is the reason that Doctor Strange exists, because it was trying to trying to leech off of how Spider-Man and how popular that was. Even having Sam Raimi come on as the director, that was just a big business trap to get all the Spider-Man fans in. Like, oh, Sam Raimi, what? He's coming in. Sam Raimi barely got to slap his style all over that. He was restricted. And it was missing something. There was moments, but it was nowhere near. Go watch Spider-Man 2 and all them, and then you'll see, like, okay, that's Sam Raimi's style. Nuts, innit? I think the door's open. I think the cat's opened it, maybe. But yes, there's nothing going on there. I'm just hearing things, actually. It's quite annoying. But anyway, so yeah, in my mind, I think that Marvel sort of dropped the ball a little bit, and they're sort of losing their way. Like, as a fan of the sort of the comics and that, you know, way before the films, the MCU and everything, I just think there's things that I'm noticing, and I'm just like, I just think this isn't being made by Marvel fans for Marvel fans. That's why I always liked the first Avengers, even more than Infinity War. Probably, it's probably on par, but for reasons, there's, Infinity War and Avengers, the first one, they did things that was like, it was so made for the fans of the comics. They didn't sort of leave them. Like the first Avengers was just go watch that back, and you can tell that was made for the Marvel fans. That was made for us. Just the way the Hulk is treated in that film, for a start, he's the big star of the film at the end. And there's, everyone, there's not too much Iron Man, there's not too much Captain America. They're not taking front and centre. It's the whole team. Everybody gets a moment to shine in that film. They are one team together. No one's on Not one hero takes, more screen time than the other in that film. The Endgame became too much about Iron Man and Captain America for me. And that's why I really liked Infinity War, because it was Thanos it was about. Thanos, it was his film. And that's why it was so good, because they made the villain the protagonist. And Thanos, in my mind, is still, to this day, I think that's that's what I was going to say. Yes! They kill Thanos as well in Doctor Strange. Yep, they murk him. He gets killed by Doctor Strange, apparently. And they did the same with What If. They sort of killed Thanos with Vision at one point there. And I think that's just a really pathetic attempt for the writers of that film to go, oh, we killed Thanos. That means our villains must be more dangerous than Thanos, eh? That means he's better than Thanos, right, guys? Right? No, doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. I think that and that's all they're doing. But at the same time, it's like, I just can't escape the fact that the book of Vishanti is the reason that Thanos died, right? Apparently, right? Oh, it's so powerful it can't be stopped. And then Wanda destroys it and sets it on fire with ease, right? So, but then all I'm thinking is, Wanda's powers is bending reality. That's her power, and look how crazy she's doing it. I'm pretty sure, remember that Infinity, was it the Reality Stone that Thanos had in the Infinity War that was, remember when he tricked all the Guardians with warping reality, that he was interrogating the Collector, but he's actually already been, and he's disguised it, and he faked the whole thing to make them, just to toy with them, just to, anything in theory, anything Scarlet Witch can do, Thanos can do it. So I don't understand, how did Thanos lose to the Book of Vishanti when he had the Reality Stone, and that was 1, and he had 4 at the time? He could have done the exact same thing, but nah, because Scarlet Witch is more dangerous than Thanos, right? That's this narrative they're trying to push. See, she's better than Thanos, guys, right? Isn't that correct? No, it's not. You didn't build... Thanos was built up for 6 years in end credit scenes. They built up to him. The first Avengers he turned up, and you only saw tidbits of him in the entire 6 years. And then when he turned up, he just tore the Avengers to pieces. And like I said as well, What If trying to kill him with Vision, there's no way that would kill Thanos. I'm not having this. I'm not having that. There's no way Vision... I don't care if it was Ultron in Vision's body. It's the same body, okay? It's the same thing, right? It doesn't mean anything. For a start, he beat the Hulk. Vision beat the Hulk in a fight. I don't think so. I don't care how strong you think you are, because you're an AI robot. You're not going to beat him for a start. So what on earth are you going to do to beat Thanos? You couldn't. He goes, fascinating, and then cuts him in half. Go look at the source material, as I said. Go look at the comics and see how many cosmic blasts Thanos can take. And then go watch that What If episode. And then you're going, oh yeah, but the MCU's different from the comics. Exactly. It's alright to derive from them a little bit. Like, as I said, it's okay to nerf Thanos a bit for the reason he didn't have his cosmic powers in Infinity War and Endgame is because Marvel didn't have the right characters at the time to take him on. Like, the comics, he was fighting Galactus, the Silver Surfer, Celestials, all the big cosmic gods, Mephisto, everybody. He was fighting them all. Adam Warlock, all these cosmic giants, and they couldn't beat him. In the films, they don't have that. The films, they don't have these characters yet. They've got Ant-Man and Falcon and Hawkeye. That's who they've got. And you've got one cosmic character that's Captain Marvel, and that's it. In Scarlet Witch. So they had to depower him just a little bit, because if he was the comic version, it would have been over in 5 seconds. He would have annihilated them all. He wouldn't have needed an army. He wouldn't have that's the thing. The Endgame, the reason, the scary thing about it is that Thanos had a big, massive army in that film. In the comics, he didn't need an army, right? Just him on his own against them all. He was in the comics was the equivalent of that entire army. like beating one of him was the equivalent of beating his entire army. That's how I viewed it in Endgame. It was like, right, imagine that, but one. It was just him, and they had, like, it was that difficult. And there's actually, to me, there's moments where they sneak in little comic book, little nods to us, but it's very subtle. Like the moment he takes out Captain Marvel, I only clocked this recently, like 2-3 months ago. It was like when he pulls out the Power Stone, and his hand lights up and he punches her. That's Marvel sneaking in his cosmic powers when his hands light up and he powers himself up in the comics. If you've ever seen that, there's all these artworks with him with his hands light up when he closes his fist, and he got all these cosmic blasts and it powers him up. That's what it was. So for one moment, Marvel actually snuck in. They gave him his power cosmic for one shot. They wrote it into the film when he had the Power Stone in his hand and he took out Captain Marvel. And they showed you, to me, that's them going to us. That was a little nod to us, the fans, going, that's how powerful Thanos is in the comic without the gauntlet. It would be that quick, taking out Captain Marvel. And it's exactly like that. He's just on another level of cosmic power as Thanos. So that's the now that the writers are kind of going back to him, like, they're killing off their big baddie. Like, even for Obi-Wan, let's look at Obi-Wan Kenobi. Despite its flaws, the one thing they're doing is that they're trying to treat Vader with respect. There's nobody has Vader ever died any other time in the films and TV other than that time? Remember Rogue One? Remember the best scene in that film? You've got Vader turning up, and when Vader turned up and just started killing everybody on that ship, just you're watching him go crazy, and everybody loves that. And now they're trying to kill Thanos off for shock value. And to me, there's just the way that Star Wars treat Vader is the way that Marvel should be treating Thanos. They said at the start they wanted Thanos to be modern day, our generation's Darth Vader. And in Infinity War, he's 100% onto that. There's definitely. But now, after a while, if you keep killing him off in stupid ways, in just kind of nonsense ways that it doesn't really make any sense. It just takes away from him, and it's kind of shitting on him in a way. And it sort of takes away from, and it's just a little attempt to go, well, we killed him, so therefore our film's baddie is scarier than Thanos. He couldn't beat the Book of Ashanti, but Wanda could, so therefore she's worse. It's like, nah, no. Wanda, in my mind, should never be able to beat Thanos. Like, would never be a bigger threat than Thanos. It's just Thanos is the big baddie of the Marvel comics. Like, you've got Doctor Doom. Yeah, they're all the big, more famous evil ones. But when Thanos turned up in the comics, it took everybody to stop him. When Thanos turned up, you knew, oh, this isn't going to be one comic. This is going to be a series. This is going to be a double issue, whatever. Like, the amount of times Thanos would just, early days, he's always been a powerhouse. And he's, he fights Galactus, and he fights the Silver Surfer constantly, and he toys with him, and he toys with the Surfer in the comics. And it's like, where's that? This to me is just the way they're treating characters from the comics and the films compared to how the writers in the comics treated them back in the day. To me goes, yous aren't really Marvel in my mind. I think you're missing the writers of this are Disney and film writers. They're not necessarily Marvel writers. They're not Marvel fans that were brought up through Marvel. Loving these characters for years and years. They're just good at writing films and good with cameras. And to me, I'm just, it's really obvious. And just the way they treated Black Bolt was just the biggest crime ever. Next to the Hulk, obviously. Hulk's been treated badly throughout. But Black Bolt, that's another time. And a lot of my favourite characters sort of growing up are being treated really poorly by the filmmakers just now. And this to me just goes, nah, yous don't have it in you. Yous don't get it. And I think they're making it, as I said, they're making it for the mainstream audience because they wouldn't notice, and they're just random characters that pop up. that they've never met in their life. So when they get killed off, it's like, oh, that's shocking. But when the Marvel fans see it, when the fans of Black Bolt and the Inhumans and the Fantastic Four see what they just saw, it's like, what? We're not? What? You had Black Bolt in that film? Wouldn't it be amazing if he was in the final battle and he was like the key? You know, if he had to step up and use the power of his voice, and maybe there was a death, you know, him using his voice was such a, you know, it was like a last minute thing, but the amount of people that could die with that'd be such a great ending. You know, like maybe there are casualties, a collateral damage, somebody's been hit, you know, like Wong, or somebody gets hit with like, you know, something, you know, Black Bolt just takes out, he just has no, there's a reason you don't want to see him talk, and he does it one time at the end, and you see it, and you see what it does, like levels, like miles, you know, that's what I wanted to see. Yeah, but no, they had to kill him off with a bit of skin. His voice couldn't break through a bit of mouth skin, apparently. Oh well, but it could vaporise an entire human Doctor Strange body, couldn't it? Aye, oh, okay, but it couldn't break through a bit of skin. Okay, we'll take it. Okay, whatever you say, writers of Multiverse of Madness. Whatever you say. And it's these decisions that's it's just like, nah, anything Wanda could do, Thanos can do. So I don't think she's... and they're trying to trick you. The one thing they're also doing is that they're trying to make you forget that Thanos was not trying in Infinity War as well. I think the whole point is that Thanos was way more powerful than he was letting off in Endgame. He was way more powerful than the audience thought he was. He was just doing what was necessary to beat the Avengers, and there was no effort required. You saw how easy it was for him. Watch the Titan fight, right? You see it before he's grieving Gamora, you know, so he's in that fight in Titan before they tie him up and almost get the gauntlet off him. You could see how much effort he's not putting into that fight. He's just doing enough to sort of get them off. You know, he's not trying to kill them. You know, he's just, they're annoying. They're annoying him. They're an annoyance to him. And he's just he knows that they can't touch him. You know what I mean? He knows he can't, but then he gets a scare, which did happen in the comics, actually. There's a moment where the Surfer almost comes in and grabs the gauntlet off him, but he misses by like a smidgen and can't do it. So that did happen in the comic. And then he has that moment like, oh, right, I need to start trying now. And then he just, and then after, watch the fight, the Titan fight before the gauntlet almost comes off, and then after, you see Thanos actually gets annoyed, and he's like, right, I need to try here. You know, and he puts in a bit more effort, and you see it, and that's when he pulls the moon down, and everything like that. The way he boots Drax off like he's nothing, and then knocks out the Guardians with like a thought, with just one blast of the Power Stone, he takes out half of them. The three Guardians, like, woof, down. And then he beats, he swats Iron Man like a fly at that point. You see it very quickly after that. He's sort of, the way he's just, and Iron Man can't even damage his skin with his sword. He's grabbing it like it's nothing. And then he pulls the moon down, there's asteroids falling everywhere, and you just see, and even then, Thanos is barely trying. He's not trying to kill them at that point. Like, if he wanted to kill them, if Thanos wanted to kill the Avengers in that scene, if he wanted to kill them in that film, it would have been over and very quickly. You know, he wasn't killing them, he was knocking them out. And I think that's very interesting. You know, there's this presence of him, that the sort of Black Bolt effect, that sort of, you know, he could do so much worse than what he's doing, but he doesn't. And when he pulls the moon down, he's not trying to kill them. I think he knows they're strong. And maybe he'll get a few casualties in there, you know, but I think that's to warn them. That's a warning. That's to make them go, but you just saw that, right? I can do much worse than that, but that's just a taster. Pulling the asteroids, pulling the moon down. That's just him showing off to say to them, like, yous can't beat me. Like, I'm not, like, right, okay, you want to try, let's go, mate. And I'm glad we got to see the angry Thanos at that point. So just seeing that, just the way, how good Infinity War was compared to Multiverse of Madness, just how good Thanos was in that film. To me, I'm like, I don't care how many times you kill them off, other writers come on and try to kill them off. You didn't create Thanos. You are inheriting these characters. You're getting the right to use them. You didn't create them. They're not your characters. That you're borrowing them for the films. And in my mind, it's like, if you're not treating them the way they should be, then you shouldn't be writing for those characters at all. I think we need to have all the Marvel writers back in the day were Marvel fans. Okay, everyone that wanted to go into the comic industry, like Mr. Todd McFarlane, was a fan of comics before he went into it. He was a fan of Spider-Man, and John Byrne is an artist. All these artists, they were all comic book, they were all geeks, and it showed. Like, the comics were just, there was just so much like love put into them, and there's just not here with these films. I think they're missing the point. Even like focusing on like all this Moon Knight, focusing like 95% of the show on the split personality thing. I'm like, nah, like, that's too much, I think, in my mind. I think there should be way more Moon Knight in that show, Moon Knight fighting monsters. That would have been so much better. You don't have to make everything super complicated. You can make it simple. Simplicity. You know, there's something great in that. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do, oh yeah, there's gods and monsters, what? Nah. You don't have to do that. You can just keep it simple. It's all there. It's all in these. It's all there. You just look at it and go, yeah, okay. Like, Hulk comes out and smashes something up the end. Okay, nice. But they're not doing that because we want to be different, and we are big film actors and writers, and we must prove that we are the best of ever. Nah. But yeah, that's my rant over today. So, but basically, watching The Boys and Stranger Things has made me go, yous aren't trying, Marvel. You're not treating these characters well. You saw how good The Boys was. I say, stop making 9 projects a year. Pull it back to 1 or 2 Marvel things a year. Get rid of all the TV shows. They're not working. She-Hulk's going to be terrible. Miss Marvel's going to be the worst thing ever created. Take a step back. Reboot the whole thing. If you want. Even do that. You've had the MCU, right? Reboot it now. With new actors. Get the Fantastic Four, the X-Men. Doctor Doom's the villain. And there you go, and we get a good Hulk, okay? That's great, because these characters will outlive the MCU. They've been around way longer than the movies have, so I think, step up your game, or the fans aren't going to be happy, because they don't like this. Oh yeah, Black Bolt, Mr. Fantastic, the 2 actual comic book favourites die instantly, and the 2 MCU creations, Captain Marvel, and Captain Carter, oh yeah, they're the 2 that get the big fight and get to go down in style. But the 2, the Black Bolt and the Mr. Fantastic, nah, they're gone instantly. Yeah, they don't get their fight. They go down really easily. That's what we want, isn't it, guys? No. So, yeah, go fix that, please. Your MCU's broken. Go and fix it now. I will see you later, guys, for episode, 57 or whatever it is. I don't even know. Right, bye-bye, everyone. Have a nice day.